Sigma Alpha Epsilon will now ban hazing as part of their rituals in order to bring new pledges into the fraternity. I should note that they have 240 chapters, and one of the reasons why they've decided to do this is because since 2006, 10 people have died as a result of hazing or alcohol and drug-related consumption. Now, this is a bit of a disaster, right? Because they've dealt with a number of lawsuits, a number of tragic deaths, so they've decided, you know what, we're going to get rid of hazing altogether. And of course, I'm pretty sure they're tired of dealing with new technology and how any activity that they do is immediately uploaded online and people can view it and question it and tear it apart.
So it's interesting because in their explanation of why they're getting rid of it, they talked about how they're getting bad publicity, the lawsuits, and one interesting thing I hadn't considered, they said, now we used to be able to keep the stuff secret, but because there's all the pictures and the videos, etc., from the iPhones, we now are forced into lying about it. But wait, you were lying about it before. Now your lies are revealed.
Yeah.
So that's what the difference is.
So let me give you their exact statement. Make of it what you will. They say, we have experienced a number of incidents and deaths. We have endured a painful number of chapter closings. I think that was worded very oddly, right? Like a number of deaths, yeah. But we also endured a painful number of chapter closings as a result of hazing. Research shows that hazing, which hides in the dark, causes members to lie.
Yeah. For literally over 100 years. This fraternity has been around since, I think, 1856, right? So this is not a new phenomenon. You just keep getting busted on it. But that's what I love about technology and the internet and all these new advancements, right? So that's like why a lot of the churches are angry. You know, I love that story, the Mormon guy who was a leader who was told the different things about his faith. He went online and read about it and was like, really? We believe that? His job was to recruit others. Okay, so yes, when you bring hazing into the light, it looks ugly.
It definitely does. And I mean, that is definitely one of the good sides of all this technology, right? Cops hate it because now we're holding them accountable for their actions. People who are accused of bullying hate it because all of a sudden we can see some of the sick, disgusting things that they do behind the scenes. And look, in this case, it makes sense because people are dying when they don't need to be dying. However, I did talk to someone who is very active in the frat community. And I asked him, you know, what is the likelihood that something like this is actually going to be taken into account by all these different chapters? Remember, 240 chapters of this particular fraternity. And he said, you know, it's really up to the campus, the kind of environment that they have there. Sure, the entire frat can say, yeah, we're banning hazing, but that doesn't mean that every single chapter is going to follow through with that. So I guess we'll see how it plays out in the future. But there's something very elitist with the way that frats do things, because it's not just about hazing. Like, you have to do like this whole interview application process. Then they decide whether or not you're good enough to be hazed. So
I can't stand it. No, I know they have to have a process by which they pick the people that are in their fraternity. That I understand more. I get that part. The whole, like, you know, now you're my, I don't know what they call him, my bitch, my little boy, my little brother, whatever. The whole thing's creepy, right? And then, like, tie my shoelaces, drink like 28 gallons of milk or alcohol or whatever it is. Like, why do you have to do that? And the reason is, by the way, so that you break down their individualism.
Right.
And you make them part of this new whole, right? And that's what the military does too. They'll break you down and they build you back up to an army of one.
Yeah.
Like, you don't think on your own.
That sounds really good for mental health.
Right. And that's why I've always hated frats, military, etc. Like, I don't mean that I hate it in general. I got a lot of some of my best friends were in frats. Okay. But it's not for me. Right? And so if they're going to cut out some of the most egregious parts of it, that leads to, by the way, yes, the most important thing is the kids actually dying, not your stupid fraternities closing in different branches, etc. If they're going to cut that out and technology led to that, awesome.
Absolutely.
iPhone for the win.
Especially considering that deaths related to hazing as of 2013 was at 104. That's pretty significant.
Wow. We got a frat brother in the room.
We do. He's giving us the stink eye.
Yeah, he is. Okay, don't even go there.
He's coming.
All right, go ahead, Steve-O.
Hazing doesn't kill people. People kill people. For every bad guy who hazes, there are a bunch of good guys who haze.
Yeah.
That's a really
Nothing
good
wrong
point.
with it.
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way.
Steve, were you the good guy who stopped the bad guys from hazing?
All right, you know what? Okay, seriously, yes, there's hazing, and most of the hazing is done in a fun way. But do they cross the line? Of course they cross the line. And then you have a bunch of drunk young people, a bunch of guys, where it always degenerates to the lowest common denominator. Yeah, bad shit happens.
What is it with frats wanting to do stuff with one another's butts? Like,
What is with that, Steve?
What is that a thing?
You know what? To be honest, I think there's a lot of weird homoerotic behavior.
There
because
is,
yeah.
but I want to know why.
Yeah, because you know why? Because it's like taboo, but they're a little bit curious, and it's like an acceptable way of doing it. Like you pat each other on the butt, like athletes do all the time too. Why do you have to pat a guy in the butt?
But there's more than that. There's like, I mean, with athletes, yes, but like with hazing, there's like insertion of objects in the anus. And I just
no,
don't get it. And like
there-
when women get together, they don't think like, hey, how do we initiate this woman into our club? Oh, I know. Let me put something up her ass.
All right, there isn't.
Although if they did.
Yeah, there isn't always anal insertion. Just some of the times. No. In my experience, there wasn't any of it. But if there were, I'm just saying, if there were, it's a whole humiliation factor, right? It's a whole domination, and I'm in charge, and you are the bitch, and you have to do whatever we tell you to do, and they make you do it. So, and look, when you have a fraternity, usually, I went to Cornell. Most fraternities there were about 50 people or so. Out of the 50 people, you're gonna have about 10 to 20 who are like super hardcore. They live for it. This is their life. And they go nuts over all the secret handshakes and the secret codes and all this nonsense. And then there's like some people in the middle, and then there's people like me who can give a shit about it. You know, where you just wanted to join the fraternity to live in the house, go to some other parties, and do some sports. And that was that. And I was considered a bad brother because I wasn't that into it. And I had a life outside of it. So they're like, why are you hanging with those Asians? Because, well, at Cornell, there's a whole Asian scene and a whole fraternity scene that was very white. But it was fun. I mean, if you do it like everything else in life, if you do it in moderation, it's fine. If you're an asshole and you're irresponsible and you go crazy, of course, bad things happen. But I'm generally in favor of more oversight of fraternities because there is a lot of bad behavior that goes on.
Two last things on this super quick. Look, some of the hazing, you hear this all the time. To what degree is true? I would have guessed in the beginning that it wasn't true at all because I found it so unbelievable and outrageous. But now I believe it based on a lot of evidence that I've heard anecdotally, etc. But the elephant walk with the holding of the penis in front of the guy behind you, right? I had to think about it. Like, which way would you hold it? Wait. Okay. And they're all in one big circle and they walk around. Say that's not homoerotic is the most non-definitional thing I've ever heard.
It's like a fancy circle jerk.
Yeah, and like, who are you guys kidding? Like, oh yeah, we're tough, yeah, the bitches, let me hold your cock. Come on, dude, come on, right? And that leads to the final point, which is, what's unspoken here is the misogyny too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make him my bitch, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna violate, I'm gonna do this. Like, and lowest common denominator for guys, what is it? It's misogyny, right? And so there's that whole element too. So look, I'm not as anti-fraternity as it sounds here, because like putting all that, I knew a bunch of guys that were in my freshman year hall who were great guys, who were still great guys, who were in a fraternity. Steve, Michael Schur of all people, etc. Okay, all great guys in a fraternity, so don't be too judgmental either. But there's a dark side, and if they can get rid of the dark side, great.